The Green Veil. Part 1. The Path That Never Ends. They said the river was sacred. That's why no one from the village fished near it. Why the kids wouldn't swim in it, even in the blistering heat of summer. And why every time the sky turned gray and the jungle thickened with the scent of rain, the elders would light fires at their doorsteps and whisper in languages I couldn't find in any book. I didn't believe them. Not at first. I was sent to the Amazon with a camera, a satellite phone, and a plan to document the remnants of a vanishing tribe whose language had never been written. A month-long assignment backed by a university with more grant money than sense, and a few folklorists desperate for a name on a paper. We called them the Koraki. A ghost people. No photos. No artifacts. Just rumors. Whispers. Strange carvings found deep in the forest, long past where the logging roads ended. Most locals refused to speak of them. A few offered stories about masks made of bone, songs sung only at dusk, and people who vanished into trees that weren't trees at all. I thought it was romantic nonsense. I thought the forest could be mapped like a grid, measured, categorized, boxed into paragraphs. I thought wrong. We started with 6. Myself. 2 porters. A translator named Luisa. A guide named Marcio. And Dr. Emil Costa, the linguist who first found the carved stone. We were 3 days into the interior when things changed. It started with the trees. They grew wrong. Too straight. Too close together. Their bark was smooth as skin. Their roots braided unnaturally beneath our feet. And everywhere these vines, thick, black, pulsing like arteries. I asked Marcio about them. He just muttered a prayer and walked faster. That night, we camped by the river. The air was too still. No frogs. No birds. Just the creaking of vines and the distant splash of something large slipping beneath the water. Luisa said it felt like being watched. Emil joked that it was probably a jaguar. I watched our fire burn too low and noticed the smoke didn't rise. It curled along the ground, snaking through the grass like it was being pulled. In the morning, one of the porters was gone. No scream. No sign of struggle. Just his pack left behind and his footprints leading away from the fire, and stopping 20 feet out, mid-stride, like he'd vanished into thin air. We argued about what to do. Marcio wanted to turn back. Emil insisted we press forward. He said the markings on the trees matched the symbols from the stone. That we were close. I said nothing. I was watching the trees. I could have sworn they were closer than yesterday. By day 6, we found the first totem. It stood at the edge of a clearing, carved from petrified wood and streaked with red. Not paint. Not blood. Something in between. It was a face, elongated, mouth open in a scream, eyes hollow and wide. Beneath it, in the dirt, lay a circle of bones. Animal, mostly. But one of them was a human jawbone. Marcio refused to go further. He turned back alone. We never saw him again. That night, Luisa whispered in her sleep. Strange words. Rhythmic. A chant. Emil recorded it, said it matched part of the Koraki phonemes theorized in his research. But when she woke, she had no memory of it. And there were scratches on her arms. Thin, parallel. Like claw marks from something small. Or fingers. The next day, the trees changed again. Now they bent inward, arching above us, forming a corridor of green that blocked out the sky. The air was thicker, wet, sweet, too sweet. Flies buzzed in clusters around us, even though there was no rot, no carcasses. The other porter, Jorge, started mumbling, said the jungle was humming, that it was singing to him. We told him to rest. He walked into the trees that night. Didn't scream. Didn't run. Just vanished. In his tent, we found a carving, done with a pocket knife. The same totem face. Only this time, its eyes were bleeding. Luisa wanted to go back. But there was no back anymore. The GPS stopped working. The compass spun. Even the moss, which usually grows on the south side of trees, now grew in rings. We were trapped. Emil kept pushing. Said the Koraki were close. That this was proof. That we were on the verge of discovery. I looked at the forest and saw it breathing. Not wind. Breathing. Leaves rising and falling like lungs. Trees creaking in rhythm. Vines twitching when we passed. The jungle wasn't just alive. It was aware. The next night, I dreamt of roots growing into my mouth. Of soil filling my lungs. Of Luisa standing above me, face blank, eyes blooming with green veins. When I woke up, Emil was gone. His boots were there. His glasses. But the rest of him, gone. No blood. Only a smear of soil where he'd slept. Luisa didn't speak. Just stared into the trees, humming the chant again. I asked her what it meant. She said she didn't know, but she didn't stop. We walked until we couldn't. Until the path closed behind us. Until even the sky forgot how to shine. Then we found it. The village. If you can call it that. Huts made of bone and vine. Altars covered in black moss. Masks hanging from the trees, each with wide mouths and hollow eyes. And at the center, a tree. Tall. Twisted. Its bark was carved with faces. Hundreds of them. Some screaming. Some silent. One of them was Emil's. Another looked like Jorge. The third was mine. Luisa placed her hand on the bark and whispered something soft. The tree shivered and opened. Not like bark splitting. Like skin. Inside was a darkness too deep for light. But I heard them. The Koraki. Chanting. Calling. Waiting. Luisa turned to me, eyes green and weeping sap, and smiled. "You've come so far," she said. "It's time to go the rest of the way." She took my hand. And the forest swallowed us. Part 2. Beneath the Roots. It was warm inside the tree. Not the natural kind of warmth, like sun or fire. It was humid. Close. Like the inside of a mouth. The bark, if it was still bark, closed behind us with a slow, slurping sound, sealing out the sliver of forest light that had followed us in. Darkness took over. But not blindness. The space inside the tree breathed. Its walls pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins, green and gold and sickly yellow, lighting our path in an uneasy glow. The air smelled like damp soil and spoiled fruit. With each breath, I could feel my lungs stretch too far. The silence wasn't true silence either. It was alive, filled with tiny wet sounds, distant drips, the twitch of vines, the low pulse of something deep below, thudding like a second heart. Louisa walked ahead of me, barefoot now, her clothes tattered and soaked. She didn't look back. She didn't speak. But her posture had changed. No longer nervous. No longer cautious. She moved like she belonged. I tried to call out to her. Her name caught in my throat. The walls flexed, listened, and the ground beneath us shivered as if in response. We descended deeper, the tunnel curling down in impossible spirals. There were no steps, only roots, wet and soft, that shifted underfoot, like they were deciding whether to let us pass or swallow us whole. I lost track of time. Minutes, hours, days. None of it mattered here. Everything was too green, too damp, too alive. At some point, I began to notice the shapes in the walls. Not roots. Not exactly. Faces. Fused with the wood. Some had eyes shut tight in pain. Others had mouths frozen mid-scream. One, near my shoulder, had lips that twitched as I passed, whispering a name I hadn't heard since I was a child. I stopped, pressed my ear to the wall. The face wept sap and said, in a voice barely human, "Take my place." I backed away, but the wall followed. Not physically, not moving, but the space between it and me tightened, like it wanted to wrap around me, envelop me. Louisa kept walking. Her body glowed faintly now, not just from the veins overhead, but from within. Under her skin. I caught up to her just as the tunnel widened into a massive underground chamber. And that's when I saw it. The root heart. A massive bulbous knot of flesh and vine, pulsing in the center of the hollow. It hung from the ceiling like an organ, suspended by tendrils that stretched in every direction, some disappearing into the ceiling, others dragging through the wet earth like veins. Around it knelt them, the Koraki, dozens of them, naked, hairless, covered in soil and moss. Each one wore a mask made of bark and bone, and from behind those masks came a sound I will never forget. Not a chant, not a song, a prayer made of hunger. The ground pulsed in time with the root heart. And the air, God, the air, buzzed with spores. I could see them, tiny flecks drifting like snow, coating my clothes, clinging to my skin. Louisa walked directly into the circle. None of them looked up. Not at first. Then, all at once, every head turned. Not toward her. Toward me. The masks were wrong. They didn't hide the faces underneath. They became them. Their mouths moved, and I heard voices from my past. My mother's laugh. My brother's scream. A professor's dry, brittle lecture on forgotten myths. All of them speaking through the Koraki, their words echoing in my bones. Louisa turned, finally. Her eyes were solid green. "You're ready," she said. I shook my head. Tried to run. But the floor opened. A mass of vines erupted, wrapping around my ankles, wrists, throat, pulling me forward, lifting me into the air like an offering. The root heart split down the middle. Not with a crack, but a wet peel. From inside came light. Blinding. Blistering. And something else. A shape. Long, thin. Skeletal. its limbs bent backward. Its face was a mask made of hundreds of smaller ones, layer upon layer of expressionless mouths and empty eyes. It stepped out of the heart and placed a single finger on my forehead. The pain was instant, white-hot, like fire beneath the skin. I saw memories burn. Mine, others, all jumbled, all wrong. I saw a Koraki elder, naked and alone, plunging a blade made of vine into his own heart, feeding the root. I saw Luisa as a child, lost in the jungle, pulled underground by something that smiled. I saw myself, my face, on the bark of the tree above, screaming silently. Then it spoke, not aloud, in my mind. You have walked. Now you must root. We have taken many names. You will give us one more. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The spores were in me. Growing. Changing. I looked at Luisa. She nodded. Stepped forward. Held out a mask. Mine. Carved of pale bark. With my eyes. I screamed. But no sound came. Only roots. Part 3. The ones who whisper from the leaves. They buried me in silence. Not in soil, but in something older. A cocoon of vines and moss, sticky and warm, pulsing against my skin like it had a heartbeat of its own. I couldn't move. Couldn't speak. Couldn't even close my eyes. But I could see. And worse, I could feel. The chamber beyond my cocoon shimmered in the green glow of the root heart. The Koraki moved in slow, spiraling circles around it, their bodies slick with dew and their chants dry as leaves. Time passed strangely here. The concept unraveled. Minutes bled into hours. Hours stretched into days that never came. Inside the cocoon, I didn't age. I changed. It started with the dreams. Except they weren't dreams. They were memories. But not mine. I saw through the eyes of others. Tribes long gone, explorers who vanished, missionaries who screamed into the jungle until the vines closed their mouths forever. I felt the final heartbeat of the first who fed the tree. The boy who laid down in the moss and whispered his soul into its roots. And through it all, I heard the voices in the canopy. Not whispers like secrets. Whispers like promises. They said things like, "The forest remembers. The river knows your name. The leaves have mouths." They told me I was no longer just a man. I was a seed. A new root in the veil. My skin itched as it hardened. First, my fingertips turned black. Not rotted, transformed. Bark-like. Flexible. Alive. Veins darkened. My breath grew shallow but constant, like I was breathing through gills buried deep in my chest. I screamed inside the cocoon, but the forest only hummed in reply. Then, one day, or night, I no longer knew, the cocoon opened. Not cracked. Unwrapped. Like a flower in bloom. I stumbled out, gasping, hands slick with sap and bile. Luisa stood before me. Still human. Still smiling. But her eyes had no pupils now. Just green. Endless green. Behind her, the Koraki watched. Some knelt. Others swayed. All of them listened. I asked her, finally, what she was. What they were. What this place was. She stepped forward and placed a hand on my chest. We are the ones who remember when the world was wild. When gods were made of bone and soil and worship came in the form of blood. We are what was left when man forgot how to fear the trees. Her fingers dug slightly into my flesh, not in violence, but as if testing the bark forming beneath my skin. You were chosen, she whispered, because you believed none of it. I wanted to run, but the forest didn't allow escape. Instead, it opened. A slit in the root wall peeled back, revealing a passage lined with pulsing fungus and bone totems. The air reeked of rot and something sweet, sickly, like spoiled fruit left in the sun too long. Luisa led me through it. As we walked, I began to hear again. Not sound. Thoughts. From the leaves. Each one hummed with memories. As we passed, they whispered their truths. I was the mother who followed her son into the jungle. I was the hunter who tasted the black fruit. I was the missionary who tried to save the wrong soul. Their voices clung to me, wrapped around my shoulders like a shawl of regrets. Luisa said nothing, until we reached the hollow. It was vast, open, a perfect circle with no roof. Above us, only canopy. And in the center, a shallow pool of water so still it mirrored the sky. Carved into the stone at the pool's edge were thousands of names. Some familiar, most ancient. Some mine. Not my full name. Not all at once. Just letters. Initials. Fragments. Like the forest had been waiting. Collecting. I saw my initials carved beside Emil's. Beside Marcio's. Beside Jorge's. And beneath them all, one word. Koraki. I turned to Luisa. She nodded. We are not a tribe. We are a process. The forest is the mouth. We are the teeth. Then, she reached into the pool and pulled out a mask. It was small. Unfinished. Familiar. Mine. Only now it had roots growing from the eyes. They twitched as I looked at them, reaching. Hungry. I backed away. The ground pulsed. The trees leaned in. And above me, in the canopy, I saw them. Not birds. Not monkeys. Not human. Shapes. Thin. Crawling along the branches like spiders made of leaves and shadow. They whispered too. But not words. Not thoughts. Calls. Songs that made my nose bleed and my vision blur. Luisa raised the mask. The shapes descended. And I understood. This was not about death. Not sacrifice. Not even transformation. This was replacement. The forest didn't kill intruders. It erased them, wore them, and used their skins to lure more. As Luisa placed the mask over my face, the roots coiled around my skull. I screamed. This time, I think I was heard. Because the forest screamed back. Part 4. Roots in the Mind. The mask didn't touch my face. It grew into it. The moment the roots made contact with my skin, they didn't just wrap around, they burrowed. Soft at first, like vines slipping into hair, then deeper. Through the cheeks. Beneath the jaw. Into the tear ducts. They slid behind my eyes like fingers, cold and knowing. I convulsed. I don't remember falling, but I remember the sound my knees made when they hit the stone, like something cracking. The pain should have been unbearable. Should have split my mind in two. But the forest didn't want me broken. It wanted me rewired. So the pain twisted into something else. Heat. Light. A tingling that shot through my skull like sparks. And with it came a flood of sight. Not vision. Memory. Knowledge. A map of the jungle, but not one made of lines and rivers. This map was alive. Route lines. Pulse rhythms. Animal migrations. Death blooms. Spirit nests. Places where the air breathed backward and the trees whispered in extinct languages. And in the center of it all, the root heart. Always the heart. Always watching. Always growing. I was no longer outside of it. I was connected. I could feel Luisa's heartbeat. Her thoughts, soft and coiled like vines in summer. Her grief. Her pride. Her hunger. She hadn't been taken. She had chosen this. The jungle had spoken to her, as it now spoke to me, and she had answered. Now I had answered too. But unlike her, I still remembered what it meant to be human. That was my curse. The others, the Koraki, had let go, forgotten their names, their families, their memories. The jungle had swallowed them clean. But something in me held on. A photograph. A song. A voice, distant and cracking like an old radio. Don't forget who you are. I wanted to speak, to scream, to rip the mask from my face. But I couldn't. Because now I understood. Removing the mask wouldn't free me. It would take my face with it. Luisa stood over me. Her eyes glowed now. Literally. Veins of golden green shimmered beneath her skin. She looked both ancient and ageless, rooted in time and entirely outside of it. You see it now, she said. The world before man's names. Before maps. Before borders. This is how we were always meant to live. I tried to stand. Fell. My arms weren't mine anymore. They moved like branches in wind. No, not branches, tools. Antennae. Seeking. Feeling. I could sense insects in the soil beneath me. Water in the rocks. Something dead rotting miles away. You're becoming, Luisa whispered. The jungle is in you now. And she was right. I could feel it rooting deeper. Thoughts that weren't mine. Hungers that didn't belong to me. I craved soil. Sunlight. Decay. I wanted to split open and let things grow from my ribcage. But somewhere in that tangled mess of stolen thoughts, I remembered Emil. His glasses left behind. His boots. And the face carved into the tree's bark. His scream forever caught in wood. He hadn't joined them. He tried to fight. And now he was part of the forest's warning. A caution carved into flesh and bark. That would not be me. Not yet. I staggered to my feet, swaying like a newborn fawn. The Koraki circled me. They began to chant. Not words, just breath. A rhythmic exhale, in and out, in and out. As if trying to remind me, breathe, root, grow. I turned toward the passage behind them. The one we had come through. The tunnel was gone. In its place, a wall of bark. Seamless. Solid. But I could hear something beyond it. A heartbeat. No, my heartbeat. Fast. Loud. Wrong. It was coming from somewhere deeper. Below the roots. Beneath the veil. Louisa followed my gaze. Nodded. You still have pieces that don't belong. Come. Let's remove them. She led me to the edge of the chamber, where the floor turned soft and spongy. The ceiling here was lower, the roots hanging in thick clusters like ropes. A hole in the ground exhaled a low, rhythmic hum. As we approached, I realized it wasn't a hole. It was a mouth. Circular. Toothed. Lined with petals that twitched at our presence. This is the hollow root, Louisa said. It will take what you can't let go. It will make you whole. I backed away. The petals quivered. The teeth clicked. And from its center, a scent poured out, a scent I hadn't smelled in over a decade. My mother's perfume. What is this? I gasped. Louisa smiled sadly. The forest isn't cruel. It gives you comfort before it takes. I turned to run, and the Koraki closed ranks. One of them reached for me. I caught his wrist, and felt his name. Not his Koraki name. His real name. Lucas. He had a sister once. He died screaming. And something inside me cracked. I headbutted him. He fell. I shoved another aside and ran for the wall of bark. Clawed at it. It bled. Screamed. Then opened, just enough. And I pushed through. Part 5. The tree remembers. The bark let me through, but not without a cost. As I pushed past it, it tore something from me. Not skin. Not blood. Memory. I felt pieces of myself peel away like dead leaves. My name. My voice. A birthday candle in a childhood kitchen. My first love's laugh. Gone. In their place, a weightless hum. I stumbled into a passage that pulsed like a vein, narrow and damp. My feet sank into soft moss, which writhed with pale worms that retreated into the dark at my touch. The walls shimmered. I couldn't tell if it was from moisture or something watching. I moved on instinct. No goal. No plan. Only escape. Only resistance. But the veil followed. It was never just the forest. It was never just roots and trees and chance. It was alive, yes, but not as we understand life. It was collective. Ancient. Built from the minds of those it consumed. Every whisper I'd heard? Every voice in the trees? Real. Every one of them. Trapped. Echoing forever. I came to a cavern lit by strange blue fire. At the center was a pool of black water. The surface didn't ripple. Didn't move. It reflected everything, except me. On the far wall was a mural carved in living bark. I recognized it instantly. Me. The entire journey. From the river. The disappearances. The totems. Emile. Louisa. The mask. All of it captured in wood, growing as I stood there, fresh grooves etching themselves in real time. The tree didn't just remember. It recorded. Forever. I ran to the water and looked in. Finally, I saw my reflection. But it wasn't mine. Not anymore. My face was cracked bark. Eyes black. Hair like trailing moss. My chest pulsed where my heart used to be, now a glowing root knot, twitching beneath translucent skin. The jungle was winning. But something inside me, some sliver of will, remained. I reached into the water. Expected it to be cold. It burned. Agony ripped up my arm. I screamed, but no sound came. Only wind. Only leaves. Then the pain changed. Shifted. Focused. I saw her, Luisa, as a child. Lost. Crying. The forest whispering to her. Offering safety. Family. She hadn't been consumed. She'd been groomed. The veil doesn't just take. It raises its own. From children. From wanderers. From fools like me. The water cleared. And beneath the surface, I saw something. A seed. Small. Black. Pulsing with light. My name. Not a symbol. Not a sound. The truth of me. Whole. Trapped. But not yet lost. I plunged both hands in. The fire returned, roaring up my spine, through my teeth, down into the soles of my feet. The walls screamed. The mural twisted, the bark bleeding. Behind me, the Koraki had arrived. Luisa at the front. No mask now. Only moss. Only sorrow. "Let it go," she said. "You belong to the green now." But I held the seed. And for a moment, I remembered everything. The sky. The wind. Freedom. I crushed the seed in my hand. And the forest screamed. The veil cracked. The roots convulsed. The walls tore open. Light poured in, a column from above, pure and white, cutting through the canopy like a sword. The Koraki shrieked and fell back. Luisa's skin flaked away like ash. The mural caught fire. And the tree howled. I ran. Through tunnels collapsing in on themselves. Through corridors that bled. Through roots snapping like bone. I climbed up, toward the light. The forest trying to hold me. Wrap me. Love me. But I knew the truth now. The veil was not the forest. It was the absence of forgetting. It remembered too much. And it wanted me to do the same. I burst from the roots in a spray of dirt and blood, collapsing onto wet jungle floor. It was dawn. Birdsong. Sky. The river. I was out. But not free. Because when I looked down, I was still changing. My veins still pulsed with gold. The jungle still whispered in the back of my mind. Soft. Sweet. You left us behind. But we never leave you. They found me 2 days later. A rescue team, tipped off by a village sighting. I don't remember what I told them. Just flashes. Masks. Voices. A name I no longer say. Now I sit in a white room with mirrored walls. Doctors ask questions. I answer in riddles. They say I survived something traumatic. That I should talk about it. But every time I try, I hear the roots shifting beneath the floor. And sometimes, just before sleep, I smell sap. And I dream of a tree. Still carving. Still remembering. And somewhere, deep in the canopy, a mask with my new face. Smiling. Waiting.